It was supposed to be just another routine flight, a 6-hour journey from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. One of the many flights taking off from Malaysia's busy international airport that night. Passengers had boarded, their families had said their goodbyes, and the massive Boeing 777 taxied onto the runway, ready to soar into the night sky. But what no one knew was that this flight would never reach its destination, that in just over an hour, it would vanish, leaving behind a mystery that has baffled experts for over a decade. This is the story of Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370. Let's dive into the details. March 8, 2014. Flight MH370, a Boeing 777-200ER, departs from Kuala Lumpur at exactly 12:41 am, bound for Beijing. It carries 239 people, 227 passengers and 12 crew members. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a veteran pilot with over 30 years of experience, is in command. His first officer, Farid Abdul Hamid, is on his last training flight before becoming a fully qualified captain. Everything seems completely normal. At exactly 1:07 am, the aircraft's communication system, ACARS, sends its final transmission. 7 minutes later, at 1:19 am, air traffic control in Kuala Lumpur makes radio contact for what will be the last time.
MH370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night. Good night, Malaysia 370.
A standard sign-off, nothing unusual, but just 2 minutes later, at 1:21 am, the plane disappears from civilian radar. At first, air traffic control thinks this is just a technical issue. Planes sometimes lose radio contact momentarily, but then something bizarre happens.
News tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight
MH370
Flight MH370
disappeared en route to Beijing.
Military radar picks up an unidentified aircraft making a sharp U-turn back over Malaysia. It flies across the Malay Peninsula, then turns south over the Indian Ocean. Authorities now realize this is MH370. This raises the chilling question, why? Why did the plane deviate from its path? Was it a hijacking, a mechanical failure, or something even more sinister? As dawn breaks, air traffic control still hasn't established contact. The Malaysian government mobilizes search and rescue teams to scour the South China Sea, MH370's original flight path. But hours pass, then an entire day, no wreckage, no distress signals, nothing. Then Malaysia's Prime Minister holds a press conference, and what he announces sends shockwaves across the world. New data from military radar confirms that MH370 made an unexpected turn westward, towards the Indian Ocean. The search will now focus on this area. With this revelation, the search team completely shift their focus, but they are no longer looking in calm, shallow waters. They are now searching in the vast, unforgiving depths of the Indian Ocean, one of the most remote and inhospitable places on Earth. By mid-March, satellite data from British company Inmarsat reveals something astonishing. It shows that MH370 was in the air for almost 7 more hours after it disappeared from radar. This means the plane didn't just vanish, it kept flying into the unknown. Using advanced satellite tracking, investigators identify what they call the Seventh Arc, a vast search area stretching across the southern Indian Ocean. But the challenges of the search are overwhelming. This region of the ocean is deep, over 4,000 meters in some places, and no one has ever searched here before. Specialized deep-sea search vessels are deployed too. They scanned 120,000 square kilometers of the ocean floor using sonar and underwater drones, but after 3 years, the official search is suspended and they find nothing. When an aircraft disappears, investigators usually find answers within days, weeks, or at most months. But MH370 is different. With no wreckage, no distress signals, and no confirmed cause, the world has been left with one haunting question. What really happened to flight MH370? Over the past decade, aviation experts, intelligence agencies, and conspiracy theorists have all attempted to solve this enigma. Some explanation seems plausible, others far-fetched. Here are some of those explanations. One of the most widely accepted explanations is that MH370 became a ghost plane, one where everyone on board was either dead or unconscious long before it crashed. This is known as the hypoxia theory. Some experts believe at some point after the last radio contact, the aircraft may have suffered a gradual cabin depressurization. This could have caused by a mechanical failure, perhaps a slow oxygen leak or a faulty pressurization valve. If the pilots didn't notice this in time, they and everyone on board would have slowly lost consciousness due to hypoxia, oxygen deprivation. When this happens, there are no screams, no chaos, just silence. The passengers and crew would have slipped into unconsciousness within minutes, unaware of what was happening. The autopilot would have then continued flying the aircraft on a straight trajectory until it eventually ran out of fuel over the Indian Ocean. This theory explains why MH370 stayed airborne for nearly 7 hours after losing contact. But there is a problem with this theory. If the pilots had lost consciousness, how did the plane make deliberate turns? The sharp U-turn made by MH370 after disappearing from radar suggests someone was in control of the aircraft, at least in the initial stages. And that brings us to the next theory. Of all the theories surrounding MH370, this is perhaps the most disturbing. Some investigators believe the disappearance was not an accident, but an intentional act of mass murder-suicide by the Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. This theory emerged when authorities examined Zahari's personal flight simulator at home. Shockingly, they discovered that just weeks before the flight, he had simulated a routine eerily similar to MH370's final path, including a crash scenario deep into the ocean. Critics argue that this could be a chilling premeditation. Another theory suggests that MH370 was hijacked, not by a pilot, but by an unknown group or individual. Could there have been a hijacker on board? Or worse, was the plane remotely taken over? The evidence for hijacking. The sudden loss of communication. Someone may have manually turned off the transponder and ACAR system to avoid detection. The deliberate flight path change. A hijacker could have forced the pilots to turn the plane west. No distress signal. If hijackers stormed the cockpit, why didn't the pilots send an emergency code? One variation of this theory suggests that a hijacker might have forced the pilots to fly southward until the fuel ran out. But then, why hasn't anyone taken responsibility? Usually, terrorist groups claim credit for hijackings to make political statements. This leads to a darker version of the hijacking theory, one that suggests that the plane was remotely controlled. Some believe that MH370 didn't just disappear. It was shot down by a military force, possibly by mistake. But who would do such a thing and why? The theory suggests that MH370 accidentally entered a restricted airspace, perhaps near US military bases in the Indian Ocean, prompting a shootdown. A similar incident happened in 1983 when a Korean air flight 007 was shut down by Soviet jets for violating their airspace. Could something similar have happened here? The problem with this theory is there is no physical evidence of a mid-air explosion. If a missile or a fighter jet had destroyed MH370, wreckage would have been found scattered across the Indian Ocean. In 2025, new findings have reignited interest in the MH370 tragedy. Advanced AI mapping technology has revealed previously unsearched areas of the Indian Ocean, and fresh attempts to locate the wreckage are underway. The story of MH370 remains as one of the greatest aviation mysteries, but with new technology and a renewed search, we may finally be on the verge of finding the answers that have eluded us for over a decade. So which theory is actually true? A mechanical failure, a deliberate act, a hijacking, or a cover-up? The truth is, we still don't know. Despite years of searching, MH370's wreckage has never been fully recovered. Families are still waiting for answers. The world is still waiting for closure. Until then, flight MH370 remains as one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. Will we ever find MH370, or will it remain a ghost of the skies? Only time would tell.